Good morning, YouTube. Thought today I would put together a little bit of a tip video on working on a 2007 Jeep Compass 4x4 front end suspension. I'm replacing the lower control arms with the ball joints, the tie rod ends, and the struts. Watched several videos, a lot of good information out there, but some of them didn't address a couple of the issues I ran into. So I'm going to point those out. First off, get some good lubricant, PB Blaster or something similar to some penetrating spray, I guess. You got some bolts here that they get a lot of abuse from the weather and elements. And first off, we've got this link up here. Okay, got the wheel off. First, let me say that I am not a mechanic. I do work on my own vehicles as much as possible to save as much money as I can. I've got about $550 wrapped up in this project here, which the dealership wanted anywhere from $800 to $1,200 to do this work. So there's a good savings. I bought my parts through rockauto.com. Great service, great shipping. Customer service was excellent. Parts were high quality, or appear to be anyway. I got the Ray Bestos Pro Series control arm, lower control arm. I believe I got the Ray Bestos tie rod ends. I didn't go on the cheaper end. I went on the high end of everything, including the Monroe Sensatrack struts. Got new boots for it, new strut mounts. So I got quite a bit of stuff for I think it was $553 and some change with shipping. But anyway, all right, make sure first you've got jack stands, everything's solid. You don't want to drop one of these on you. Okay, here's one of the issues I had. This bolt, I can't remember exactly what it's called. It is some kind of a stabilizer bar for the suspension, for the strut. What you've got on the inside is a hex head inside there. This got rusted up very bad. So a hex head and I believe a 15 millimeter nut on the end. If you just put a wrench or an impact gun on the nut, it will spin. There's just a ball on the back side. I don't know if we'll be able to see it or not. It just spins. It's a ball. What you've got to do is put a hex key inside here. I believe it was a 5 millimeter. Had issues with getting it set in there properly because it had a lot of rust. I took a pick, cleaned out the corners of it. I took a wire brush and went on the outside, put a lot of penetrating spray on it. What you end up doing is tapping in, or what I ended up doing anyway, I tapped in the hex key and got it set. Otherwise you might take a big chance of rounding it out if it's in there too shallow. Gentle taps, got it set in there. I used a box end ratchet wrench over the top of it. From there, after it's soaked for a while, this one's been soaking overnight actually. I did the other side last night. I backed out the bolt a few turns, it got tight, cleaned it up again, sprayed it again, tightened the bolt back down with a nut, and continued to do that. It took 3 or 4 times before I could get this thing off. When I just got finished putting the other side back on, put the strut on, it went on with no issues. You might actually put some thread sealer on there to help prevent that from, or anti-seize, I guess, to help it if you ever have to do this again. I hope I don't. This thing's got 100,000 miles on it. We'll see. I don't know. Alright, other issues, areas to put the penetrating spray. Basically on every bolt you're going to remove. Got a couple of bolts here, taking off the brake lines, and I believe the anti-lock sensor tabs. Those were not too bad. The bolts on the struts themselves, they are splined on the end, so you don't need to actually put a wrench on this particular end. I put my impact gun here. I believe it's a 21 millimeter. Back it out. If it spins, you can put the wrench on the other side, but it is splined in here, so it's locked in fairly well. Sprayed those 2 bolts up. Tie rod ends. Those were pretty easy. These are old Moogs with the castle nut and the lock pin. The new ones I put on were Ray Bestos, and they just have a nut on the top of it. They don't have a cotter pin. These, it was not an issue. Spray, which it looks like I may have forgotten to do, spray this nut on the tie rod. And what you want to do is, I'm not going to go through the whole thing on here. I'm just going to hit a few points where there were issues. I'll post a link to a couple of videos later on that were pretty helpful excuse me, with the rest of the process. But a little penetrating lube here. You want to back this nut off. You just want to loosen it. This whole shaft actually spins. Your inner tie rod, I believe, don't quote me on this because I didn't go back this far, but I believe the inner tie rod is back underneath the boot. It isn't a ball, so this does spin, and you want to be careful when you're taking all this apart. When you drop your tie rod and start backing the tie rod off the shaft, you don't want that shaft to move. You need to hold it. I counted the revolutions back. Also, you know, just barely snug the bolt back to the tie rod as an alignment setting. You know, that's part of your alignment. I will likely go get this realigned when I get complete, but if it runs true, I'm not going to worry about it. I kept everything pretty much the same as where it was, and the alignment was pretty good then. So yeah, a little penetrating spray here, some on the castle nut. You've got 3 points on the control arm. First point back here. Sorry, the light's not real good, but that is I believe a 21 or 22 millimeter nut, and there's a bolt just underneath. Hit those. On the other side of the control arm, toward the front of the vehicle, you've got that nut. I hit that, or that bolt. Hit this one. And then on the bottom, or on the actually on the rotor, the hub assembly, you've got that nut. And coming around, you got the bolt on the other side. Hit those. Comes off pretty easy. One of the other issues, I'm going to walk around to the other side and show you one of the other issues I ran into. And this was with the strut itself. I rented a spring compressor for a coil, or for an outside spring compressor for a strut, not a coil spring. Got that all taken care of, but when you're taking the nut off of this after you've compressed the spring, very difficult. Sprayed it, put heat on it, tried everything, vice grips on the shaft, spins. So what I had to do was grind a couple of divots on either side there so I could get the vice grips to lock onto that so it would not spin. I recommend Air Tools impact gun. You know, that's if you're trying to do this without an impact gun, good luck to you. It's probably going to be pretty tough. So now I'm just going to go through real quick, and I've got my new strut in here. Came with new bolts, new strut mount. That all went back together. This thing went back together with ease. It actually took me 55 minutes to change out this lower control arm. It's a Raybestos. It's about $108. The Raybestos tie rod end here, and I put in a new Monroe Sensatrack strut, new boot, new bushings up in there, all that stuff. Hope this helps. Any questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer if I can, and I'll try to post links to a couple of videos that go through the actual process. Take care.